Our next task is to actually connect these sites together. We've connected the site itself to the subnet, but we haven't actually connected the sites to each other. Now, by default, there actually is an intersite transport, an IP site link that is created, and all the sites exist in that site transport. If you take a look up here under internet site transports, you'll see that we have two different types of intersite transports that we can create, an IP and an SMTP type transport. What's interesting is that this SMTP type transport is, I will guess, also kind of an artifact of a time gone past. I will say that in perhaps 99.9% of Active Directories that I have ever seen, in fact, honestly, I don't think I've ever seen an Active Directory that used an SMTP-based intersite transport. But if you have the need to, if you don't really have true IP connectivity between sites, you can use one. But again, I'm not going to show it to you because you just never, ever, ever see this. The vast majority of the time you see an IP site transport, and by default, out of the box, every site that you create is automatically added here into what is called the default IP site link. If I take a look at it, you'll see that all four sites are currently there: the Denver, the HQ site we don't care about, the Las Vegas, and the Phoenix site. The cost for traffic between these different sites is currently set to 100, and the replication interval is set to 180 minutes, which means that we're going to replicate traffic during that period of time every 3 hours. This is awesome because this will configure the sites for the configuration for all of the sites that are out there. But a better practice, one that you find just really out in the world these days, is to create individual site links that correspond to each connection that you want to create. The way in which we do that is by just literally creating a new IP site link here. Now, this is just kind of how you see it out in the wild. We will create 3 different site links: one between Denver and LAS, one between Denver and Phoenix, and one between LAS and Phoenix. And we usually see that written up by DEN to LAS. And we'll put both of these sites in that link. 1. We need to create a second one here, the site link of LAS to PHX. That's the second one here. There. And then the third one will be DEN to PHX. So there's our third site link, DEN to PHX. Again, you can call these dog or taco or underpants or whatever you would like. You could name it anything you want. But this is, again, just kind of the practice that you see most often out in the world. The reason you do see this using this configuration is it allows us to have very granular control over the cost and the replication schedule for each individual connection. So let me come back here to DEN to LAS, for example. The DEN to LAS configuration now includes these two sites. It includes a cost of 100 and a replication of every 180 minutes, and then the schedule of all day long and all week long. This is pretty interesting because when it comes time for me to determine what the actual physical cost, dollar cost, pain cost, that is associated with getting traffic from one place to the other, it is here where I can dial up or dial down these two configurations to determine how I want replication to occur. This is best explained by going back here to my little diagram and showing you again kind of what this is intended to mean. Let's assume, for example, that the 3 sites that we've configured are actually part of this much larger infrastructure that we may potentially be building someday. And so up to now, we've actually configured a DEN to LAS connection. We've configured a DEN to PHX connection there. And we've also got this connection from LAS down to PHX as well. 3 different connections, 3 different sites. One of the reasons why we have created these different site connections is so that we can then determine what the cost of each connection is going to be, and then therefore what the replication schedule of each is going to be. You already saw that by default the cost for any connection is set automatically to 100. And what's important to recognize is that the absolute value of this number is meaningless. It's the relative value of this number in comparison with all the other different numbers that have been configured for other site links in the Active Directory domain. What's also important to recognize is that the value that is associated to the cost has no bearing with any technical reason at all. You can base this cost off of just the pain of that replication. You can base it off of the dollar cost of the network connectivity between the 2 locations. You can make up a number if you want. It is just the relative value that the knowledge consistency checker will use to determine the best path for a piece of data, replication data, to get around your network. Let's assume, for example, that for us to get to Denver to Phoenix is a pretty average network connection. So we'll set that at the default of 100 for the cost. But the cost to get from Denver to Las Vegas is actually quite a bit more. Maybe the network is half the speed. Maybe the actual dollar cost for the connection is twice as much. And so because of that, the actual cost, the pain that's associated with getting network from that one location to the other, from Denver to Las Vegas, is twice as painful than it was from Denver to Phoenix. As a result, we can set that to 200 instead of 100 as the cost value for that connection. Maybe it's even more costly. Maybe it's ridiculously painful because of a slow network connection or really expensive bandwidth for us to get from Las Vegas to Phoenix. And so the cost of that connection is something more like 500. Again, the numbers are meaningless except for how they compare with the other numbers that make up the other site connections. It is these numbers that will help Active Directory and its knowledge consistency checker in determining which path replication traffic should take in order to get from one place to the other. If you think about it, for a piece of data to get from Las Vegas to Phoenix, considering the configuration we've set up, the cost of it getting to Phoenix directly is 500, but the cost of it getting from Las Vegas to Phoenix through Denver is only 300. It costs less, and cost less is probably better. Now, I will tell you that you can make all kinds of ridiculous configurations here in setting up what the cost values are going to be for the different configurations on your network. But recognize that you can also create for yourself an untenable situation where you've set up costs inadvertently or perhaps accidentally, and it takes a really, really long time for your Active Directory to complete a replication. So be careful with these configurations here for cost. You might just set them to the initial value and only make slight changes if you find that you're really filling up your existing network lines from one location to the other. The other thing you can do is increase or decrease the replication time, or even change the schedule so that the replication only occurs during certain periods of the day or certain periods of the week. Most important thing to recognize here is that a lot of this, again, is still artifacts of a time gone past when networks were quite a bit slower and we had to pay more attention to the number of bits that were going across that network at any period in time.